Support comes from Romerocast. Film fans, film students, and lovers of French cinema, check out Romerocast, a new podcast from Sean Seneviratna and Leon Billingham about Eric Romer, his films, his working methods, and anything else they want to talk about related to Eric Romer. Liam and Sean just concluded their first season on the 3 films that played as part of Metrograph's Summer of Romer series: The Aviator's Wife, The 4 Adventures of Raynette and Maribel, and Boyfriends and Girlfriends. They break down the comedy, drama, and heart of these movies while attempting to figure out what exactly makes a movie Romerian. If you're a Romer diehard or want to get your feet wet, Romerocast is for you. Available at romerocast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
I didn't just come to perform. I came to say something. How do I say something in my work? Like if I was never able to speak to someone like you or do press, if I literally shut up after a project, what does a project say? What does my character say? And how do they live in people and their household and, their screens at home forever? How does that sit with them? I've found that the last few years, I've been able to create some kind of through line with the characters that I've played. And I've been able to represent women that I really care about in my life and in my community and give them their light.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Lashana Lynch is an actor. She sat down with me on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to talk about the work.
Is there a typical way that you like to begin your preparation process when you get a new role? What's your first step toward kind of wrapping your arms around a new character?
When I first started out, I put a lot of pressure under myself to make sure I had the right process, whatever that meant. The perfect process that, was by the book, and I'd done 3 years at drama school and I know what I'm talking about. I know how to do all the character questions. I know how to find the character. And as soon as I did 1 play out of drama school and then I think half an episode of some show, I realized that I don't have one. And that I also don't want one. I don't want there to be a go-to way, because then I'm treating every single character in the same way. And they've all got different mindsets, different skin, different backgrounds, different traumas. It's important that I honor how I treat them in the way that I want the audience or even the people on set to receive them. So no, I don't have a process. I find that there's things that are helpful. A few things I've done over time, like writing a diary entry, I find helpful because it's stream of consciousness and it kind of takes me back to school and just getting it all out. And then when I read it back, I'm like, I didn't know that happened to them when they were 7. That's actually helpful in maybe finding a tick that I think that they have, or how they walk, or an injury they may have, had in their teens through playing sports. Those finer details is what helps me characterize. But if I go back to a routine, and I love routine because I don't like procrastination, my process becomes a little stiff, a little stifled, and then I don't feel like I'm doing the character justice. I still don't ever think I'm doing the character justice, even to the end of the shoot or the play.
And somehow that's probably healthy, right?
I think so.
I mean, there's something about, if you did feel that way, it would probably not be something that would have reached the audience in a significant way, right? Even though that sounds insane.
No, I think you're right. I just keep thinking of this. I did a play a few years ago called Ear for Eye. That was a play that turned into a film that Barbara Broccoli actually produced. That's what got me into No Time to Die. And the language is very colloquial. The interruptions, the ellipses, they're all very intentional. And I remember being on a loop, or what I thought was a loop, maybe 20 minutes into the play, and me and the other actor looking at each other like, so how are we gonna, okay.
Whoa.
And I was like panicking in the moment, but afterwards I was like, one, the audience doesn't have a clue this just happened. They're just like, wow, acting, woo. And also, because you're also thinking at 1,000,000 miles per hour in your head, you think it's about 10 minutes, but really it's about 0.001 seconds.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, there's so much to find all the time. There's so much in there.
Yeah.
Even when you're asleep, like sometimes you might dream of the character's, experience, or you might go home and be cooking dinner and think, gosh, the way that I just chopped that onion was really cool. I think that might be like how they gesticulate. And they kind of just stay with you the entire time. And I'm not sure that answers your question, but that conjured up a memory that was really helpful for me in going from theatre, which I started out in, to screen.
Because you don't have something that is solid that you can lean on, because what we're gathering is that solid thing has a see why I edit?
Don't edit this part. This is actually how I think.
Okay.
This is how I think. And it really helps to have these moments, because like, surely
but does it help the audience listening? It helps you.
No, I think so, because like, gosh, everything's too perfect all the time.
I know.
And in order to get to like the truth, we have to have these moments where we're questioning ourselves.
That's right.
The deep, dark depths of ourselves.
I believe that too.
And if we're doing that as a person,
yes,
then I'm able to make sure the person, the soul.
You may have changed my mind about this, because it might be good for people to hear it and they're like, oh, he's not a perfect communicator.
No. And that's sometimes a superpower. Let's use that.
Yeah.
Because I think that it also creates this misconception that like, listen, we're talking about process now, and this is fantastic.
Yeah.
This is a rare opportunity to talk about process.
Yes.
When you're doing press, they're like, so here's one question about process. It's like a minute, corner of the 5-6 months you're on set, and no one really gets to understand just how much your mind goes through.
Yes.
Just how much your emotions get pulled in different directions when even reading the script. It's such an emotional experience that every time I do an interview, I'm like, they're not getting the essence. They're not really understanding how hard it was. And then on the flip side, you're like, if you bash it around people's head that this process is hard, they're gonna think, it's only acting, like, cool it. You know what I mean? It's not that deep. You're just playing a person. I was that person for 5 months.
Right,
it's hard. And you're doing it over and over again. And actors, performers, they are one of the few groups in the world who are constantly changing jobs.
Right.
If you think of your average person in the world, they might stay in a job for 3 to 10 years. Don't quote me on stats, but they might, and then they get comfortable and they're able to see, the people around them every day, regular faces, regular feelings. We have that first day at school every few months.
Yes.
If we're lucky enough to work that often.
And you go through an emotional thing just at being the first day of school.
Yeah.
Never mind what you have to do with your emotions in the job.
Yes.
So it's like on top of one thing on top of the other in terms of emotional gymnastics or whatever that you have to do. And then you got to do it all again.
Yes, from scratch.
Yeah. And then you add stuff like you've been doing lately, which is physical work on top of the emotional thing to it. But wait, because you're saying that having something solid is almost a drawback, can be a drawback in terms of wrapping your arms around somebody and inhabiting them. What do you do to have the confidence you need, though? Do you know what I mean? Like some people use a process, a solid process, a reliable process to feel confident in the work. You know what I mean? Which is, I'm assuming, is part of what is going to help you do the work. You're almost saying that you don't want that because you want to kind of be free of that, because you don't know what this person is going to be. You don't know what this, and you want to be able to not be chained to a certain process that would keep you away from kind of discovering the person, is what I'm gathering. But is there something that you do that brings in that confidence that you need?
That's a good question. I do find that whatever's going on in my life, there has to be at least one constant. So whether that be my personal routine of coming home and cooking, or like as soon as I get in the trailer after we wrap, costume off immediately, wig off, we're out. I find the coming out of the character really helpful. The coming in, like I said, is gonna change, because sometimes it'll be music. There'll be a playlist that I really like for the characters. Sometimes it will be shoes. I need to, get into the shoes of them. So that's something you discuss at drama school as well, in order to tap into them early. Or it might be a conversation you had with the director that, I don't know, sparked something in you and it reminded you of a process you had 3 years ago. That's a nice anchor. But if I have something in myself, what gives me confidence? Knowing that I'm not necessarily gonna get it right every day, but knowing that I've done it before and I have muscle memory and that didn't go too badly.
Right.
That's really nice, actually. I can't speak for the first thing I did. I think it was just pure adrenaline and anxiety.
Yeah.
And that happened to have a great cast. But I think just anchoring myself in the small things that no one really pays attention to, no one really sees, like a tick that I found last year in a character I played where she, so I played Miss Honey last year, and I was going through singing lessons in the lead up and during the shoot. And my singing teacher, Dane, got me to stand up and rub my hand with my fingers as though I'm stroking a dog or a cat, to keep my voice light. So there's no like glottal in my voice, because I wanted Miss Honey's voice to be literally like a songbird. And in that, I found when I went to work the next day, the nerves that Miss Honey carries was through her hands. I was just stroking the veins on my hands. And I was like, that's it, found it early. I mean, anytime I feel like I'm slipping out or I'm being me, because that's a fear of mine, people are just gonna watch me, Lashana, on the screen, I would just rub my veins. And now when you watch that, if they've edited it, if they kept the wides, you'll see her trying to grapple with life through her hands.
Interesting.
But I don't think I'm going to necessarily use that for someone else.
Right.
I can't use that for my latest character, because she doesn't need nerves,
Right.
That comes off screen.
Right.
And her power comes on screen, whereas Miss Honey's power comes like the tail end of the film, So I honestly don't know, and I like not knowing, because it keeps me on that edge that you need to be just a little uncertain to prove to yourself that, okay, cool, it can work. I am here for a reason. The imposter syndrome can die away, even though it doesn't go away completely. I can just make it work. There's something about making it work that I've had since a teen that I thrive on. I like keeping it on the edge so that things can stay as rich and natural in the moment, instead of them being, a little planned and stagnant.
Looking into you, I've gathered that you early on somehow decided and stuck to the idea of knowing what you want in terms of roles, and also maybe more importantly, knowing what you don't want. Because that happened early on, it seems like that really plays a big part in where you are right now, right?
Yeah. When I came out of drama school, my top thing was, I will not be typecast in any way. I will not repeat a role unless it absolutely makes sense. And I won't take something that feels like I'm compromising my soul for the sake of nothing. I really thought of legacy early on. 10 years, 20 years, my children, my grandchildren, my daughters especially, I want them to be able to like look back on mum's catalogue and think, okay, that made sense. She's like stayed consistent to who she is. And in choosing not to be typecast, I found that even when the industry didn't see what I saw, or my friends or my family saw, I was able to navigate through the moments whereby, you know, you don't have money to put on your travel card to get to your temp job, or the role that you really, really wanted 5 times in a row, you got down to the last 2, but you're not an A-lister, you're too tall, you're too dark, your hair's too natural. I found something, even if it was like 5 minutes in an episode, that empowered me. So I thought, I really worked hard for this 5 minutes, and I know that this is going to teach me something and how to stay consistently me when the industry is throwing consistently not you at you. Yeah, the typecasting thing was big. I also saw that a lot of people compromised early, and what the ripple effects of that were.
What were they?
Like signing up to a show that had 7-year options in that they didn't want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they couldn't afford to not have it. And I really didn't want to work in retail at the time, but I thought, just work in retail. I worked for the NHS for a while. I worked for a courtesy car company for a while. And I thought, if I can just stick this out, then at least I'm maintaining who I am and the person that I was raised to be. Because that's what's going to be with me for the rest of my life.
Right.
If I change that now, in my early 20s at the time, then I don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
And then the industry's going to chew me up and spit me out, like I see a lot of people go through. And I just, I'm not about that. I'm not, that can't happen. That can't happen. My parents worked too hard for me to go and do that.
Were there people, trusted people, that were saying to you, you're making a mistake here. You have to at least do some of this. It's paying dues or something. Or you have to get seen. Just get seen. Were people saying this that you had to ignore?
I am very discerning with the people that I surround myself by. Have always been mega private, very selective with who I talk to and with who I am advised by. So the friends that I have now are generally the friends I've had for the last, 5-10 years, give or take. Some earlier than that, pre-drama school. And the people that have said that to me, I know have said it out of love and care. Like your agent will want you to take a certain role because they know that casting director is now going to be casting this next thing that you're going to be good for in a year from now. Yeah. But you as an actor, a young actor starting out, you can't see the year. Yeah. You're just seeing now. So the small compromise I would, do is go in for the role and say, okay, I'll go for it. But one, I might not get it. Likelihood is I would, because a lot of the time we were pushing for things that weren't actually my casting because I wanted to go against type. And they saw things that made sense to the industry, but I knew early on that I was trying to carve out something for myself that I knew would be really special. And I didn't know what that looked like yet. I just know it had to be a variation of things. Lo and behold, it has been that. Because I learned, no one teaches you this in school, I learned that you have to mold the people around you, like your team, to really understand where you're at so that they know how to treat you. Yeah. And in drama school, I just thought, oh my gosh, I've got an agent. Yes, now I go out into the world and they're going to direct me and show me what to do. And I just take the jobs and I just hopefully earn some money and have a good life. But I learned early on that no one's going to know who you are or what you want unless you break it down to them. Yeah. They say you have to teach people how to treat you. Yeah. I thought that was just friends. That's literally the whole world.
It's everyone.
The whole world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really a big lesson, because you do think if representation is that's it. Now that's their job to kind of mold me in a way. But then suddenly you turn around and you're molded in this way that you don't want to be.
Uh-huh.
And you're stuck in that mold.
Yes.
And how many people do we know like this?
Oh my gosh, too many. I had to have a conversation with my manager the other day, who was the best manager in the world. Danielle Robinson. She was like, how do you want to be treated? Because I understand, I see that, sometimes we've had conversations about, emails and how they come in and the timing of things and digesting information, once you've got off set. And I found that I was really overwhelmed coming off set and being like, there's a bunch of emails, I don't know how to handle them. I don't know about this thing, you're the expert, tell me. And I remember breaking down that, like, if you send an email or want to have a conference call, that's what it was, a team call after 6 p.m. UK time, low likelihood is I'm gonna be a little, not grumpy, but I'm going to be a little resistant to whatever the conversation is. Could be the nice conversation in the world. Because I've had a whole day, So I have to make sure that is in the diary. We're having a call at 6 and I'm letting you know at the top, I'm going to be cooking dinner at 6:37. And I'd like to have it warmed up by 6:45 and eat by 7 so I can have an early night. Type of thing. Yeah. And I wasn't communicating any of that because no one teaches you any of this stuff. You're just finding your way as an actor on stage or on screen or on radio, what have you. And the stuff that comes with it, you're just left to your own devices. Right. Which is why you see people still just figuring it out all the time. Yeah.
Give me an idea of what works best for you on a set. Like what is it? What environment brings out the best in you?
The first thing that comes to mind is the best AD team, the best assistant directors. I've had the time of my life when the ADs are like, don't worry, I've handled it. Yep, the tea's there. I remember that you like peppermint tea. Don't worry, I know you're doing a scene with water, where you're in water. So I've got costume to come and be there at the end of the take. And everything's just efficient. I like efficiency. I'm a perfectionist. I like things to be ordered. So when they're on it, I know that the whole set is going to be on it. Because there's a top to bottom ranking as well. Yeah. From the first AD who's across everything to the third AD and the PAs at base who, when you get back to base, you want to know, okay, so lunch isn't there. Okay, cool. So we were told that we only have 20 minutes for lunch and now I'm going to wait 7 minutes for it to come. And they're probably going to knock and say you need touch-ups in 2 minutes. So now really I'm going to have a couple bites and then go back, So all those things have a knock-on effect to your mood, your energy, being able to tap back into the character after lunch. Because that post-lunch lull. Right. When you're like, I've had a big lunch and now I need to get the energy back. So ADs is really important. I like when directors are across everything. Across the costume, makeup, they have a really vivid idea of what they want this character to look like, coupled with wanting to collaborate with the actor. So they're not dictating a look to you. Right.
So that's a very strong vision, but willing to collaborate on that strong vision.
Yes. I like to think that they also think I have a strong vision, and the reason why they cast me isn't just because I did a good job in the room or they like my work. It's because they know that I can play and, figure things out on the fly and be up for improing and things that keep it light. Because some of the work we do is it's long days and, heavy narratives and you just want to find the joy in it. Yeah. I obviously need a great cast so that that when you're coming on set, you're not stepping on anyone's toes or tiptoeing around anyone. You're all focused, but you all know that at the end of the day, we're making art. that hopefully will be around forever and ever, and people will get personal things from it. And to, you know, the tough scenes, like I shot some last year, it's really nice to not be the bad guy and go around set and say, I'm sorry, I know you have to discuss the whys and things, but it is really tough for me, and I would really like if we could have some quiet for as long as possible.
The idea that you would have to be that person infuriates me. That goes down and says that.
Yeah. I mean, when you have, like, you know, good set director has already sorted it, first AD, everything I've mentioned, that doesn't happen. And I've not had too much of that. But there's been some, like, you know, things that I've experienced as a black woman on set, whereby I've seen the white crew just go and by their normal days, you know, giggling and I don't know, something had happened with the light and they're like, oh gosh, what happened to the light? And I'm like, in this moment, I'm really carrying something deep that I'm probably not going to be able to shake this tonight or this week. And what's really distracting is hearing you laugh, because now it feels like you're laughing at this this scene or this part of history or what this character's going through. And that's why I think everyone, this is what I learned on my last 2 jobs, everyone on set should read the sides. Everyone should understand what's being shot that morning, what the day is going to look like, what the actors are going to be going through, what the director's going to have to go through, or else, you know, you can seem insensitive when you're not on board the ship, you know, and then you have to have these secret little conversations with the director to, like, make sure so-and-so over there isn't standing in my eye line and staring at me as I'm crying my eyes out for this character.
It matters. That matters.
100%.
Yeah. And it's just, that's a great thing, which I haven't really heard in that way. But it's just, it would be a nice thing for just the director to maybe have a little meeting in the beginning of the day. Or maybe even the day before. I don't know. Is that possible? Well, I mean, like, just to be like, we're doing this today. And this is going to be really hard, this part. I'm not saying you guys need to be, you know, eggshells here, but everything's going to matter here. The environment is going to matter in this moment more than it would maybe even in other moments today. Right?
I've seen first ADs do that at the top of days. Some do it every single day, actually. That I've seen for more morale purposes, you know, to remember we can push through, and yesterday was a hard day.
It's never about the actor, right?
No,
it's about, like, let's do this, guys. And we got these people here that are actors, but
but us. Yeah, that's right. I'm sure I've worked with some lovely ones, and, you know, like, I just worked with Gina Prince-Bythewood, and she's very close with the crew and the actors, and creating that synchronicity on set, which is important. But also, humans are going to do what they do, isn't it? You know, there's only so much. But again, it goes back to trickling down. If the people at the top are doing what the actors need, are caring for the well-being of the actors, then the PAs that are, like, way on the edge of set are going to know what to do.
I believe it.
And in the reading the sides, the PA will know. I had a few years ago, I did a show that really triggered me. I was supposed to walk in, look at something on the wall, and touch the table and just stare at the picture. And it was a shot from the back, and they were, like, dollying through, like, as I walked in. And as soon as I walked in, I walked straight out, and I just cried my eyes out and ran down the stairs and ran into a field. Luckily, there was an open field there. And I was probably crying for about 10 seconds before a PA was like, we need you back.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna, no, I can't, I'm in pain. I'm in pain. And I really need you to just feed back to them that I need a second, just a second. And she was like, okay, so how long do you think you're gonna be? And I was like, I don't know. How long do you take to cry your eyes out? I'm not sure. And it happened again when I had an asthma attack as well one day on that same set. And I had to have a conversation with the first AD and just say, look, this show's tough, man. You know, we're really going through it here, and this is my first lead. And I would really like if we create a culture whereby we all care for one another and we're able to have the necessary conversations, albeit awkward, to just get what we all need. Not what the actors need, what everyone needs. because we're all doing tough jobs.
Right.
And I think that's a misconception as well. They think, oh, the actors, don't look them in the eye. You know, they're going through something. It's like everyone's going through something. You've got, you know, camera A is doing handheld right now. He's balancing the camera on his shoulder.
Right.
Or the boom operator, she's, you know, holding this boom up the whole day. So that's never, I always consider all of those things, but I feel like if everyone on set considered it, then there would be no need for a conversation because we'd all be thinking it.
Right. And that's a great point. Like, it's like, if the actors are realizing, okay, the Steadicam guy needs to put that thing down every once in a while because that's a heavy thing, and like we're just doing this. But if he's also conscious of the act, like if everybody's conscious of everybody, then things don't have to be weird. Then they don't have to be awkward. Right. I mean, you could talk about some awkward things, but if you're already conscious of people. Instead of just like, and I think you're right though, that's the top-down kind of thing. That's a top-down thing. And this is what you said about this current film that's coming out, The Woman King.
Oh, what'd I say?
We were singing from the same hymn sheet. We were dancing to the same beat. We were literally feeling the energy in the soil whenever we were at work because we were barefoot on wild ground every day. I mean, tell me how this played into what you needed to give in this role, you know? And how did looking around and seeing the sisterhood literally play into what you needed to pull from? Like, that's what I want to know.
It was so nice to have a director and a lead actor on the same project that you really admire, like love since the beginning of their careers. And they represent so much for you as a woman, as a Black woman, to be going through the same thing that you're going through. Example, Gina trained with us when we were training. She mucked in. And she promised that from before we even got to South Africa. Viola was there with us. She was barefoot. She was stepping on rocks. She was doing her own stunts as well. She was sweating and figuring it out. We all felt like almost one organism, just moving and shaking and trying to get the shot every day, trying to represent everything that this film represents in the most authentic way, but also not being afraid to put our hands up and say, this is hard stuff. We are working hard, and it's not overconfidence. It's not, we're not beating our own chest with this. It's literally the hardest thing I think some of us have ever done and may ever do if we don't get an opportunity like this again, which I'm hoping the industry will just shift after seeing this because it needs to. But it was nice to be able to shoot on the continent, feeling the energy and knowing that we're doing something that is bigger than us. You know, I've had experiences like that before. The last few years, the roles I've had, they've been massive for the world. You know, they've been a real exploration of how we need to cast, how to stay open-minded, how to really pay attention to what we don't have in the world, what we need more in the world. This was rooted in something else ancestrally. And it took us being together, same hymn sheet, same bare feet, you know, same energy in order to really tap into these characters that needed to be honored. They deserved it in a different way. And the characters I've had before were honored in their own way. This one was connected to my soul, and I could see everyone had similar experiences in that way.
Were you overwhelmed by the responsibility then when you feel that?
Yeah, a little. I think because the whole thing was so overwhelming. Just what I know this film is going to mean for the culture, for the world, for the industry, how much it can change things. I, at the beginning, did put a small amount of pressure on myself to get it quote unquote right. And then I remembered, like I'd said to you before, there is no right, there's just doing the thing. And I felt there was like connective tissue between me and the rest of the cast, me and Gina, me and costume, me and makeup. We all had this like spider web of connection that meant that I felt held in moments when I felt I had this massive responsibility that I had to undertake.
Yes.
You know, and again with Viola being so gracious and generous and just lovely, I was like, okay, she's still figuring it out. All right. So she's asking me my opinion on this line and what we should do, and should we run from there or should we come in here? Let's huddle and figure it out as one mind. That was incredible to alleviate some of the pressure that you put on yourself as an actor, and especially as a Black woman, because you know we're not afforded the getting it wrong or the slip ups or this time it just didn't work out. We had to make sure that everything was as true as possible, was rooted literally in the soil. And I don't think that took too much graft I'll speak for myself, for me, because I knew that because we trained together and we'd seen each other go through the wars, whenever I was depleted, the sisterhood that you speak of was just there around set. You know, Adrian Warren would be like, you good? I'm like, I am now, because you see me. So thanks for that. Then there's Sheila or Tim, who, you know, will just look over a set and just give each other a look and be like, yes, it's 3 a.m. And yes, we're doing another stunt. Yes, we're feeling it. So yeah, we were, it felt like one person moving after a while, which was really nice.
Here's another quote. You said, this line of roles has been completely spiritual. They're all very aligned and meant to be. And it makes me feel grateful for choosing to be an actor. Tell me what you meant by that.
At the beginning of my career, I was just grateful to get in the room for a casting director to see me, to put me on the list for a role. Then I was grateful for producers to see me and speak of me to other producers and consider me for future projects. And then I started realizing I was going from, you know, The Girl Next Door or the one episode to like a short film to a meaningful play. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can really say something with my art. Like, I didn't just come to perform. I came to say something. How do I say something in my work? Like, if I was never able to like speak to someone like you or do press, if I literally shut up after a project, what does a project say? What does my character say? And how do they live in people and their household and, you know, their screens at home forever? How does that sit with them? So I found that the last few years, I've been able to create some kind of through line with the characters that I've played. And I've been able to represent women that I really care about in my life and in my community and give them their light. Maria Rambo is a single mother. I never thought it just hadn't even come up for me that we need to represent them on screen. And I was so happy to be able to talk about that on that press tour. And then casually auditioned for a Bond film that I didn't know was going to turn out to be 007, because I didn't know that when I auditioned for the role. And then I thought, oh my gosh, this is one of the biggest things I can do as a Brit, you know, as an actor in the world. I'm creating history. And I've never actually said that. This is an exclusive. I've never said I've created history before. But it is doing that. And I know you're nodding like, well, yeah, it really, really is. And now in creating history 1 year, I now currently get to discuss history.
Yes.
You know, I get to impart wisdom and educate and remind the world that they're seen, remind women that they're seen, give young Black girls a very different experience now than I did when I was young, not seeing a bar of any of this. So it just feels like I'm a massive manifester, like massive. I don't think anything's by chance. None of the roles I've played have been by chance. And I want to remind everyone that I've only recently been able to pick roles. You know, people are like, how did you pick that role? Like, it came in my inbox and I was happy to go and audition. You know, this one was like a non-audition process. Gina had thought of me and I was really happy for that. But before that, it's just a lot of grafting and hopefully having, you know, everything that you throw at the wall stick. And because I'm a good manifester, I'm able to try and align things in a way that makes the right one stick.
Because you're a great manifester, as you say, you're talking to a guy who's not a very big superhero dude. So I want to ask you, like, knowing that, if you can, and it's not even an if anymore, because it's getting to the point where you can do this. You can create a character that you're going to play. So if you can create a superhero that you can play, what would it be?
That's so interesting. So I will preface my answer with this. I believe one of the big reasons why I am a quote unquote superhero fan is because I was an animation fan as a child. That's what I related to. I didn't have like my favorite actresses or actors as a young person. I just saw escapism. So going from animation to superhero, which are, you know, multi-dimensional, out of this world escapism, I would want someone, I always want people who happen to be in the profession they're in. You know, they've just stumbled on MI6, you know, and then happen to be really good at it. So it would be a really normal working class girl who happened to stumble across a thing. Gosh, I just thought of Matilda as I'm looking at this cup. Matilda raising the cup, you know, you don't know you have this power and you become empowered in yourself or through someone that you meet who also looks like you or sees you in a way that others can't. And the way that it comes out is in like the best of times and the most awkward times. Like imagine being able to, I don't know, levitate, but like you're doing it on the subway, for example, and then someone like has to like push your shoulder down and be like, not now. I would like it to be like awkward. I'd also want to see a superhero go to the bathroom, brush their teeth, eat. These people don't refuel, man. Like, I was like, where you getting this energy from? They're just out here running around, flying around, and just being okay. I want to see the most normal, chilled, working class, happen to have stumbled across this city or this person or this world through just being themselves. And maybe not saving the world. Maybe trying to get it right and spending a couple of films or a couple of episodes figuring it out. I think that would be nice. I don't always want the win, you know. I don't always want the happy ending where, you know, the cat from the tree was saved and now, look, thriving. She's gone and had loads of kittens. I want to know that there was some struggle there because I want it to reflect the real world. I don't just want superheroes in the real world or what seems like the real world, them coming down, doing their thing, and then going off again. I want to see what it would look like if their emotions were attached. Like, how do they feel about getting it wrong? Or how do they feel about having a challenge that is bigger than them because they didn't know they had this power in the first place. That would be nice. I'd also like to see more children as superheroes too. Mm-hmm. I think that is cool, which is what brought me to Matilda, actually. It's so powerful for children to see that they're able to do something outside of themselves. Yeah. That's one thing that made me go, oh, when I left the cinema as a child. I thought, that was cool, but I'm never going to be able to do that. I'm never going to be able to fly or shoot fire from my fists or, levitate or what have you, or read people's minds. I'm never going to be able to do that. If the powers were like slightly more realistic, then we'd remind children that everything that they have and that they need is in their hands. Yes. Their future's in their hands, their legacy's in their hands, their power is in their hands. How they treat their mind, how their self-talk is in their hands. Yes. Instead of trying to reach for something that's unattainable. It just makes you go, oh, but that my life is boring. So they can go there on the screen and, have a good fun one, but I just go to school the next day and back to normal. Right. That can be quite sad for a young person. Right. I want them to leave the cinema being like, okay, cool. So if I go to a martial arts class, I'd be able to do that. Yeah. Cool. They weren't able to do that before they started this film. In The Woman King, trust me, we were not able to kick as high as we kicked or, use the weapons as we did. Everything was from scratch. Yeah. I did not know. We were nervous the entire time. And then we learned it and it was fine. Yeah. But we trained for the entire shoot in order to get it that way.
Amazing.
So if these young people go and train for a week or a month or take up something, an extra class after school or a weekend, then they're able to just harness the power and use that in their life going forward. Yes. Which is what I love about The Woman King, because these are real people. We've had the superheroes and that's still happening and I still enjoy it. I also now really appreciate that we have these real women in history.
They walk the earth.
They walk the earth. They're some of our ancestors. Their spirit's still here. And these are, we actually were able to do it. We were able to get as close to what these women went through as possible. And they're real. They're real. They exist. So that's a nice thing to strive to, as a young person. It's actually real. These people did that. And in the next few years, maybe I could too.
Yes. Lashana Lynch, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.